So a very good morning and welcome to another Wednesday. It will be a little like returning to the classroom today. Sharpen your pencils, get out your protractor and get ready for some maths. In fact, how about we do some times tables? No, don't worry, I won't put you through that. I'm only joking. But what you will hear is some revolutionary work by an Oxfordshire team helping children to get on top of their numeracy. That and plenty more.
Oxfordshire News, Oxfordshire Life, on digital 95.2 FM and online.
BBC Radio Oxford.
Radio for Oxfordshire.
It's BBC Radio Oxford. A very good morning. Welcome to the show. I'm Kat Orman. Now, let me take you back. Do you remember your 6 times table? How about your 7 times table? Quickly, what's 9 times 6? Yes, you were right. It was 54. Very good. And in such short time as well. If you, like me, are a bit rusty on the old numbers, then you might want to join forces with inTABS, who are set to win the war on innumeracy. They say that every child will have to learn the times tables off by heart by the age of 11. But how will the revolutionary work done by an Oxfordshire team help children across the country learn something they so often find tough to grasp? Well, Darren Coles and Gus Singh run inTABS and they're here. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Good to have you here.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before we talk about what you've brought in, which completely scares me, which is in fact the way in which to learn your times tables. Before we talk about that, I want to find out a little bit more about you. So Darren, I'll start with you. So let's go back to the classroom and your primary school experience of learning about maths. Mm-hmm. I mean, how was it?
Difficult.
Why was it so difficult for you?
I wasn't aware at the time. I was like bouncing off the ceiling all over the place, and certain circumstances and things and events happen in my life. Anyway, I don't know, and I've only recently found out, 32 years of age, that I have ADHD.
So this has been going on all this time, and nobody recognised those signs, which obviously had a huge, vast impact on your education.
Yeah, I wasn't aware back then, and I was clueless, still pretty clueless, but.
So how were you dealt with in the classroom by the teaching staff?
I was, maybe naughty, lacked focus. And it's just like, come on, pull yourself together. Okay, stand outside, you're being a bit disruptive. That sort of thing. It was...
So do you feel failed by the education system? Your experience of it anyway?
In my experience, yeah.
So how has this then gone on and impacted the rest of your life?
It's had knock-on effects, and mainly in self-esteem and self-confidence and things like that. Because, I think I'm failing, so I'm an idiot maybe, or I can't do it, so I'm, and it just troubles my self-esteem, and and they say, well, yes, you failed, so. There you are. You've failed, and then you go on to do other things, and you try to find work, and maybe further your education. You're not sure why. You just think, oh, I'm crazy, or
so just
something.
Because this wasn't picked up all those years ago when you were at primary school, you've gone through life thinking that you're a failure and you're fairly useless. This has affected your ability to perhaps have a career, get interviews, get on the on the career
Looking
ladder.
back now, it makes sense. What's happened? Yeah.
How did you get your ADHD diagnosis?
Through a therapist.
What led you to that therapist?
Having mental problems, mental health issues that come to a front. I had a bit of a breakdown, a lot of a breakdown, say 2.5 years ago.
What happened?
And anxiety was through the roof, depression through the roof. I mean, I'd had these problems for years, but as the therapist would describe to me, that we have a stress beaker inside us and it's inside our mind, and when it gets like tip top, we start, if we don't deal with things properly or we lack the ability to cope, then that starts sort of overflowing and overheating, and that brings on such things as like panic attacks and anxiety attacks, generalized anxiety, all that kind of thing. It can get worse. It did get worse for me. I couldn't go out. I had agoraphobia. I couldn't even drive. I love driving. I love getting in my car. Reaching for the handle was even, a problem for me. But, anyway, I sought therapy after not being able to cope putting my hands up and going like, right, okay, no, I need some help. And I'm not one to ask for help. And again, things that don't get picked up, it's only through like hitting rock bottom and getting to that stage, which I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy or anyone. That's only when things maybe get picked up. I see other people struggling and it's not even picked up in them. And I see it and I can try and help. But I was maybe lucky that I got into, the therapy that I did.
I would imagine, Darren, that there was a certain amount of relief when you got the diagnosis that in fact this is what was wrong with you and you had ADHD and that had been manifesting itself for all those years and of course landing up with you having these mental health problems.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the ADHD, it's helped me to put a label on it and and then go about how I can treat it, if you like.
Gus, tell me about your experiences of certainly the primary school education, which I do hope were very different to Darren's.
Yes, well, actually, my primary school education was in India, and there numeracy is taught in a very different way. They're actually very advanced. The East are, in the league tables, far advanced of the West in terms of numeracy. So I'll give you one example. Here we count on, we have 10 digits that the primary school children are taught to count on. In India, if you look at the creases on each finger and you use your thumb, the opposing thumb, then you can count to 12. So you have 24, digits to count on as opposed to 10. So, and that, when I came over to England at the age of 8, none of that was there in place at primary school level. So the teaching was very different. It was actually much more primitive. And I felt I was going backwards rather than forwards.
And how did you cope with that? Because when you're more advanced, I suppose, and certainly, I mean, there's all sorts of other challenges when you've come from India and you're in the UK and in our education system. How did you cope with all of that? Because you can then go the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a case of sink or swim. At that age, neural pathways still developing and so on. So I didn't have a word of English, so I learnt English very quickly. I think within 2 or 3 months I'd caught up. But so the fact that I wasn't put in, extra special classes, as it were, but thrown in at the deep end, here you go, normal lessons. So you have to adapt very quickly. But one thing I did find was that my maths was slipping. Because I was in India, they have a grade system, much like the American system, and I was a year ahead in India. But here, I found that I was, being taught stuff that I'd learnt 2 years previously, and I just couldn't work out why, it wasn't at pace with the rest of the world.
I'm wondering why we're so behind and we're so primitive.
Well, actually, this is what led to this work we're doing now, which is why has Britain currently sank towards the bottom of the developed world?
So within the research that you've done, which I'd imagine it's been quite a lot leading up to the new system that you've actually developed, what's the answer? Why have we?
The answer is, well, if we look at the research, Ofsted have conducted research into this, and they found that that those without mental instant recall of the times table struggle in maths. And they also found a correlation between low attaining secondary school pupils and struggling with instant recall of maths. So it seems like instant recall of the times table. So it seems like the key building block for numeracy is instant recall of the times table. In other words,
why is this a failing then at primary level education?
Well, interestingly, they found through their research that many primary schools in England are failing to teach this properly. A bit like my experiences that I found, and a bit like Darren's.
So they've always failed to teach the times tables properly? Because I remember quite an emphasis being on it when I was at primary school, but I'm not quite sure that the emphasis is so great nowadays.
Absolutely. Sorry.
Yeah, no, lost. No. My experience was, pretty much it wasn't... I still don't have instant recall of my 12 times 12, which is, as per the recent government mandates, and updates to the national curriculum, that's what's required. You need instant mental recall of the entire 12 times table.
Why do you care so much, Darren? You were failed.
Yeah.
Your HD wasn't diagnosed until quite recently. Why do you care so much about making a difference to children, learning, getting their basic math skills? Why do you care?
There's a connection there, and I see, as well with my ADHD, I'm like hypersensitive, so I pick up on all sorts of things. So, I see someone struggling, it's a little bit, worse for me. I feel it more intensely, and I have to try and govern that. It's not easy at the best of times. But, there's a real connection in terms of what I feel for them. I see them, about to embark on this journey that, and everyone's different. Everyone goes that they've all got their own roots in life and make their own choices and decisions and things like that. But, they can start going down this slippery slope, and who's stopping them? And I see them heading for like a brick wall or, drowning or suffering. And I think there could be something we could do. Don't suffer what I've been through. I've been, the amount of P45s I've got, is more than all of us have had hot dinners and cold ones.
And I think you completely justified your reasons for caring, and I totally take my hat off to you. Your reasons perhaps just a little bit different, Gus.
Yes, because if we can generalise from Darren's individual story, that innumeracy has a huge impact on people. For instance, research shows that you're twice as likely to be unemployed if you have poor numeracy. Also, 65% of adult prisoners have poor numeracy, and it's linked to poverty, long-term social deprivation, mental, as Darren was alluding to there, mental and physical health, even mortality. And the fact is, the very sad fact is that 17 million adults in this country right now have numeracy at no better than primary school levels. So people are slipping through the net.
It's shocking. It really is, the fact that we're failing at the basics, the very grassroots of our education system. So what have you done about it? Let's talk about this new system that hopefully will change the world.
Well, relating back to what we were saying about how things are taught here, now, rote learning, the traditional rote learning in our education system now is obviously not working. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this situation that we have. So what we've created is a way for people to learn in an interactive or kinesthetic way. So rather than, here's your times table, go away and learn it, what we've tried to do is bring learning to life by them being able to interact with the numbers. And what that creates is the sort of psychological mechanism of classical conditioning, where repeated interaction between equations and answers creates powerful associations for recall. If I can just give you the analogy of darts players, for instance. Now, we know they're not the most, with great respect, the most erudite of the species. Yet, when you see them playing, they have amazing mental mass ability. They're able to work out how many what's a checkout, how many they've thrown, and without interrupting their rhythm of throwing, which is quite fast paced. Now that you're wondering, are they born with that natural mass ability, and then they take to darts, or is it the fact that they interact with the numbers so much that repeated interaction is what creates this almost conditioned response, as it were, towards these? And that's what we're trying to do with that, with this book here, which is that repeated interaction with these equations and answers will create powerful associations for memory.
Well, Darren, let's just describe actually how this looks, because like you say, yes, it's a book. It opens up, and what you've got, if I can sort of put it into very simplistic terms, it's sort of like lots of little doors, like a big advent calendar, really. So how does this, just explain to me as simplistically as possible, Darren, how this does work, so I can interact with it. And also it does say it's dyslexia friendly, so and it's yellow and green with little black doors.
Do you know your times table?
I was dreading that question.
We're not going to put you on the spotlight, Nicky
Morgan. It was a
Morgan
long time ago, but I'd like to think that yes, I had a fairly good grounding with my times table.
Well, can we test that? come on! This is live demonstration on air.
Well, just tell me.
You're not allowed to use a book.
No.
I'll get my calculator out. I suppose that's part of the problem, isn't it? Technology is not helping
Absolutely.
with times tables because children, I suppose, and teachers are becoming lazy for that very reason.
Okay.
I'm trying to
You're
avoid
trying to
this.
avoid
Yes.
it. Come on, anyone that you say you have to work out or think about, just pick any of them, the hard ones.
The hard ones.
Yeah.
7 times 4.
Well, don't pick it up. Don't touch it.
Okay.
Okay. So, what do you think it is?
I think it's 28.
Okay. So now have a look.
It's 28.
It's 28.
Okay, I haven't embarrassed myself too much.
No, but you see the sort of hesitation, the doubt, and even trying to work it out in your hands.
Well, this is live radio.
Yeah.
Of course there's going to be hesitation.
Yeah, of course, and everyone dreads it, but we don't have to dread it no more because we've got the solution. So, but anyway, that will stay with you, and the more times you do that, that will remain with you for a long time now.
I would imagine it will.
This is the interaction, as Gus was explaining, between the equations and answers and using your fingers, covering them up, and this book allows you to do all this all in one solution, and gives you instant recall. So it commits it to the long-term memory.
Maths frightens me, but that's part of my problem. It was always my weakest subject because it frightened me, and I didn't particularly like my teacher either. But this is making it fun, more interactive.
Absolutely.
And that's how learning and education should be.
And you alluded to it earlier, which is, there's so much emphasis on calculators, smartphones and so on. So we want to bring the love of books back. And this book hopefully bridges the gap between school and home because, if we take what Ofsted is saying, that it's being taught not very well in schools, then is the onus still on schools to improve? According to DFE, it is, but I think parents should also take responsibility. In other words, with this, have fun with your kids and test them and, have fun, see what you know.
How do you know that this is going to work, Darren?
It does work.
How do you know that?
Well, I've done a little couple of tests myself, and it works on me on those, and I still remember them. I'm still looking at the book, thinking back to where I know them from, so I have that committed. I'm going to wait until we do something like a YouTube video or something like that on me specifically, testing. But when we've tried this with our case studies and, other people from a range of backgrounds and ages, and, not just 6 and 7 year olds who this is aimed at, mums and dads, with those kids who are just starting primary school, ideal time to look at this. And, anytime, really. Adults.
I think the great thing about this is that you can start really young, I think, with your children with this kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
And they'll start detecting so many wonderful things. For instance, the most recurring answers are shape-coded. For instance, 12 appears, the answer 12 appears 6 times. And if you open those up on these tabs, you'll see it forms a beautiful arc. Same for 24, same for 36. And you'd also realise that actually you only need to learn half the times table because of the perfect symmetry. In other words, 7 times 8 is same as saying 8 times 7.
Some of the best innovation comes out of Oxfordshire. And I really wish you both the best of luck with this. I think it's a great, great idea and something needs to be done. And this is absolutely, this is a genius idea. So good luck with it. Will you let us know how it all goes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And can I say one more thing? We'd urge all your listeners to take the inTABS Instant Recall Challenge, which is similar to what we're doing to you. Do the David Cameron, what are 9 8s? How fast do you know it? Test it on your kids. And if they struggle, then please visit us at inTABS.co.uk and take the challenge there and read all about it.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Darren Coles and Gus Singh.
BBC Radio Oxford.